Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only David Archuleta.
Hey, hey,
I should say Macaw is in the house.
I'm Macaw.
I mean, listen, jumping right into it, you've done so much in your career musically. Obviously you're on Idol. Like, how was this experience different from you, and how does it rank in terms of other things you've done in your career?
This The Masked Singer was a lot more. It's just fun. It was a lighthearted experience for the most part, as far as like the competition side of it. But then the storytelling side, it was like there is a bit more of like a emotional. There's quite a bit more of an emotional side, especially towards the end of it with the finale. And I feel like it was a very just like a healing experience, like a full circle moment, being back on TV, but this time learning how to be okay with myself. Whereas when I was on American Idol, I was 16 and 17 years old. I was still trying to figure myself out. I was afraid to show myself. And I think I also was afraid of who I was. And to now come to a place where I'm like coming to terms with myself. I'm looking at the parts that I was once afraid of and learning to embrace them, and not just embrace it, but just to share that with everyone. It's like, because I feel like a lot of this audience knows who I am, but now I'm sharing that as like this part. I was so afraid, I was terrified to even admit that was a part of me, is now here it is. And having to face the audience was really scary for me, the TV audience. But to feel the reception and the support from so many people is just, I'm just so grateful to everybody.
I mean, do you feel a change? I'm a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. I just went to the GLAAD Awards in New York. Like, do you
Hey.
feel, yes, right? Like, do you feel different, like appearing on a stage like of this size and just in your career? Like, do you really see a difference, like even in your career in terms of like before and after coming out?
I would say I feel like I'm still, well, if anything, I am feeling comfortable exposing just David, who David is. And I feel like I don't have to work. Well, I feel like I'm still coming into my own, because it has taken me a while to accept this part of me. The fact that I've worked so hard to combat this part of me, I'm having to like deprogram myself now, deconstruct the beliefs that I grew up with, that this was an evil part of me. This was bad. I must never allow it to come forward, or else I'm going to ruin my life and be miserable. Not just my life here, but also my eternal life, like with God in heaven. And so having to coming from a place where I thought, this is not worth it. This is not worth like accepting, because at the price of what, so much is at stake with my soul, to the point where I'm realizing actually it's not what they told me it was. I'm not what they told me I was. They told me that because I was this, I was going to be evil and dark. And I'm realizing I'm the same person that I was. And not only that, but I feel so much more empowered. I've learned that it's okay for me to love myself, because before I was like, nope, I can't love myself until I get rid of this. But now I'm realizing, oh, I'll probably never get rid of this. And I don't think I'm supposed to. So that's, it took me a long time to realize that though. So, um, but I feel wonderful. I feel like it's going to change the trajectory for me with my career, but it already has with my day to day existing of being David.
Well, give yourself some credit because some people never get there, right? Some people really
Mhm.
live a whole lifetime. I mean, is that what your new song is based on? Faith in Me. And I watched the video and I listened to the song. This song is so catchy and it's a
Oh,
little
thank
more
you.
poppy, I think, than things you've done maybe semi recently.
Yeah. I felt like I had to be tame. I had to tame everything down, because if I did anything too out there, that it would lose the spirit. And that really kind of like, that was what controlled every, was the deciding factor in everything I did. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let loose. I'm just going to, have fun. I'm going to not fear myself so much. Like so many of my songs over the last decade have been about trying to master myself, trying to overcome my weaknesses, trying to fight and tame my my feelings of being attracted to guys, to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let myself be who I am. And I'm not going to allow people to tell me that I'm this evil person just because of that. It's like I hated myself. It's like they were happy that I hated myself. And now that I'm like learning to be accepting of myself and love myself and have a new love for life, it's like people are upset that I don't have the same anger and hate for themselves, that for myself, that they do for themselves, is almost how I feel. But I feel like, I'll live my life and other people can live their life. But I'm kind of done having people tell me what I need to be in order to be happy, because it clearly wasn't making me happy. I was getting very depressed, to the point where it was getting really dangerous for for myself with that way of that mentality.
Right. I mean, you have been open, in interviews about that, that it really got pretty dark. Like you even thought of kind of taking your own life. I know your song Up is kind of about, hitting rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think we are in terms of like a society with mental health? Like, are we having the conversations we need to have, or do you think there's still like this stigma in 2023?
I think that we're getting there. I feel like with each step forward, there's always something new to learn. Things that we once considered as the norm or this is acceptable. As we move forward, we realize, what, we probably should have, we didn't have the information that we needed to really see things for what they are. And I feel like we're still in the process of that. But as far as like with like, um, people being gay, I've run in a lot of times to the mindset. Like when I first came out, like my mom, she had a hard time accepting myself, who now she like recently just posted on her Facebook her support and how she has stepped away from the faith herself that we grew up in, because she's like, you know what? She's like, I'm realizing it's not what I thought it was. But at first, she asked me the things that the church tells us. The church would say people are gay. It's usually it's either because they're making a decision that they want to be evil, they want to be lustful and want to be perverted, or that they had been sexually abused when they were a child. And so my mom was like, well, David, were you sexually abused? And I was like, no. I'm like, if that were the case, I'm like, look at these other family members that were sexually abused. Did it make them gay? No.
Yeah.
So it's like that narrative doesn't work. And not only that, they weren't molested by the same sex. They were molested, what, by the opposite sex. So shouldn't we
Right.
be talking about the family child predators that we're just letting